So, hi, and welcome to Difficult People and Bully Mastering. We're here today because we really want to help you learn how to deal with bullies and deal with those difficult people in your life who are standing in your way of really claiming your power and being who you truly are meant to be. And I'm Melissa Fike, so thanks so much for joining us today. We are really pleased to have Janice here today with us, and in a minute I'll introduce her. But I just want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing here. This is a relationship series, so I have a series of videos on relationships, and it's about relationships with everything in your life, from your dog to your mother-in-law, from money to your workplace relationships, to love relationships and sibling relationships, because everything in our life we have a relationship with. From everything, money, we have a relationship with it. Our bodies, we have a relationship with it. And how you express yourself with all these different relationships is how you're going to experience your life. So it's either in a positive or negative way. So I'm so excited to have Janice Davies here from New Zealand. And Janice calls herself the lady with nice in her name, as a reminder to be nice to herself first as she creates her dream life. She's been looking after people all her life, and she's run away 4 different times for adventure, freedom, love, and then for her dreams. She's a self-proclaimed attitude specialist because she had to learn herself. As a speaker, trainer, coach, and author, she spends her time changing people's lives. Janice has had guided messages for 30 years, all directing her toward her 7th career as a teacher, and in her memoirs and movie called The Success Attitude. She's had a python dangling around her neck, jet-setted through parts of the world, has been a volunteer on patrol boats for the America's Cup, lived in a haunted house, and had burnout twice. She loves the sea and sipping on champagne. She's a single parent for over 16 years with a successful single parenting book coming out soon. She's been dealing with bullies for most of her life, in high school, in her marriage, at work, in a relationship, and has been teaching people on the topic for 15 years. She has 2 online programs for her personal and work life. One is called Difficult People, and the other is called Bullying Mastery. She's the founder of Self Day. She's the founder of Self Day, an international self-esteem awareness day. And Janice is here to talk to us about difficult relationships and bullying. So I just want to welcome Janice. Welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Well, I'm so glad you're here today. So Janice, I really want to ask you an important question. Why is it so important for us to learn to deal with these difficult people and bullies?
Well, our most important journey in life is to become our best, and that means that we've got to live in our own space, creating our own greatness and honouring ourselves. You know, we are with ourselves from the moment we're born to the moment we snuff it, as some people call it, you know, till we pass over. And in that time, we've actually got to learn to be us, and that's our whole journey in life, is to be that. But we have other people who come in and they want us to do this for them and that for them, and we should do it this way, and if we did this it would make them happy. And what we've got to do is kind of find a balance between, first of all, we've got to be ourselves, and then working and having relationships with other people.
So what kind of background do you have, how to deal with difficult people and bullies, and how has that affected you and your life?
Well, interesting enough, I started off as a leader in high school, and when I moved into, so when I was about 10 I was a leader, and when I moved into high school at about 15 I was asked to be a leader again. And what had happened at that time, which I didn't realise, was that I was being bullied from some girls. And I changed me for 18 years, and when I was at a parenting program for my children, by then I was a young mum, and I was thinking, how come everyone else looks so happy and they've got a smiley face and all their lives are going fine? And I had the smiley face, but I had a sad soul. Even though I had 2 children and this marriage was supposed to make us all happy, and at the parenting course I realised that I had low self-esteem because I'd been bullied when I was 15. And wow, that was just an absolute light bulb went off in my life. So 25 years ago, plus some, I've been working on relationships with difficult people and bullying and making all my relationships better as well.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. So what led you, is that what led you to be the expert on this topic?
Well, yes, because what happened, you know, I suppose I'm a self-proclaimed expert, as we all are. There's no kind of university degree to how to deal with difficult people or bullies. There's lots of other things, but it started with personal experience, because once I realised I was a young mum with 2 children who were 3 and 18 months old, and I'm their role model, I'm their teacher, as much as their father is as well. And so my role is to be a good mother, is to show them how to be themselves and teach them, you know, right from when they're born. And while I was in a relationship with a bully who was bullying me and bullying the children who were only little tots, that was never ever going to happen. So I became a single mum, and I went on this journey not knowing where the journey would lead. And then I suppose 15 years later I started teaching it. And I've been teaching it ever since.
Well, I guess, you know, life is the best teacher, right? So that's where you've learned, and what we do in our lives matters. And I'm really in awe that you've taken this on, and this has been such a big issue for so many people, and I'm really glad that you are here to talk to us about that. So what are the top 3 things that someone should know in order to improve their relationships with these difficult people and bullies?
Well, first of all, that they are really, really important, and their life and their goals and their dreams equally as important to anyone in the world, and that their goal in life is to become their best. And so every hiccup that comes along with another person is an opportunity for them to learn. It's really like if we fail the maths test at school, or we don't get fit and we don't run the race or swim, we haven't trained enough. And so it's the same with difficult people in our lives. If it's happening and we're unhappy, we have to learn how to deal with them, and that's number one. Then it's like what's happening in the relationship, so that we can embrace those and start to integrate those skills, and then sort of realizing that, you know, bit by bit, every person, the ones that are making us unhappy, we kind of like need to spend less time with them, move them out of our lives or whatever. I mean, I did that, and then go and find the great relationships that we're actually totally entitled to, worthy of as well.
So how do you move them out of your lives? How do you move them out? What do you mean by that?
Well, so if it's family, for example, because we start our lives with family, and what I've got, which I'd like to give to people later on, I've got a handout here. I'm not sure if you can see it there. And so the handout is a mind map of all the different types of relationships that we can have in our lives from when we are born. And so our first one's with our family. Good or bad or indifferent, that's where we learn to be loved, to love, etc. And then it moves on to schooling and same-sex relationships with girlfriends or boyfriends, and then our partners, etc. And so going back to family, that if there's some that are bullying us or threatening or we don't feel so comfortable with, if we can understand what type of relationship that is, like there's 4 different types, and we can start to change it by using some different words, we can spend less time with them. We can, you know, sort of come up with the things that work for us. You know, I can't do the shopping today for you, Mum, as an example, but next week I'm going and I can fit it in then. So you kind of, instead of running to every one of their need, you're starting to negotiate on some better terms for yourself. So you're sort of just spending less time with them, and things like that.
So is this a boundary thing, like being clear on what but what if, you know, the boundaries of where your needs are? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely it is, because when we are unempowered, so we haven't got the confidence, which means that our self-esteem has been, you know, hasn't quite built to where it could be. And this is again one of lost learning journeys that we tend, and especially some certain personalities. There's 4 personalities. And the dove personality, and if you think of a dove, it's a caregiver. And so these people here, and I'm a caregiver, that's one of my personality traits, is that we like to look after people. It makes us feel good to look after people. But what we do is we look after people at our own expense. So we go and do the things for them, and then we don't go and keep ourselves fit. Or we, you know, just all little things. So it is all about setting the boundaries for us, because we're the most important person. And once we're okay, we can look after them better, but we've got to do it for ourselves first.
Is that the best way to get started, is to learn how to take care of yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. It totally is. And that's why I call myself the lady with nice in her name. Because, and look, I say to myself, I call myself a slow learner and a late developer. Because it wasn't until I was about 40 and that I realized that I was, you know, I've actually got nice in my name. And so, you know, usually you play these games at school. You know, you've got, this is your name. How many words can you make out of your name? That's a game that you often play. But suddenly I realized that I had nice in my name, and I realized that I had to be nice to myself first, because what I was doing was looking after other people. So it's, what can you do to make yourself feel better? You know, it's from wearing, you know, making sure your fingernails are done, to wearing matching underwear, to going for a walk every day or every couple of days, or eating better food. And all those sorts of things are starting to look after you physically better. And then you need to work on your mentally, which is your thoughts, and, you know, your spirit and your soul as well. So it's kind of like working on bits of you to feel better, so that you've got the confidence to say, hey, no, I can't do that babysitting. I've got something else on. And even if that something else is you going to the gym or you going to be fit, it's actually important for you to do that, look after your own health.
Okay. All right. I was just listening. I want to go back a little bit. When you were talking about being the caregiver and always giving, and so does it seem that the caregivers tend to be the ones who are bullied more, for some reason?
Yes, there is, and there's four personalities. And if you think of these birds, like the owl, who we sort of think is wise, the dove, who's a peacemaker, the peacock, who's out and bright and airy and always on show, and the eagle, who's like, you know, hovering over top and preying on people. So those are our 4 personalities, and out of all of those, the dove is the peacemaker, and they are employed in things like they're teachers, they're nurses, they're secretaries, they're customer service people, and that's who they are. And the hardest word for them to say is only got 2 letters in it, and it's no. Because they'll think, no, I don't want to do that, but yes will come shooting out of their mouth, and they will do it. So absolutely, caregivers and those careers, those jobs, are the peacemakers. So the other thing as well is, of course, as parents, we take on that role as being a peacemaker and a caregiver, and in there we've still got to find some time for ourselves as well. So it's finding that happy medium which we're looking for in our life, which is sometimes a learning curve for us.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So how long does it take to become proficient in dealing with those types of people?
Oh dear, I've been working on it all my life. I think so. You know, and you know, life is a journey. It's not the destination. And for me, it's like, you know, okay, so it was in a marriage, and then it was at work, and then it was another relationship, and then now I'm really fine tuning family. And so for anybody, it's about, first of all, being aware of it. You're halfway there, and then it's about wanting to make some changes for yourself. And so learning the skills, and I've got some other things that I can share with people, and it's an ongoing journey. Another template that I've got with people that I wanted to share with them is that we've got this one, and this template is about questions to ask yourself about whether what you want to do, and it just helps you confirm to yourself that you want to start making. And I'm not sure if we're still actually, are we still live here? Because I've kind of frozen down in my little picture.
Yeah, it's just choppy because of your, you know, probably your internet connection. It's okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to come up just for a second and just let everybody be aware that the handouts that she's talking about, we will have a way to get them more toward the end. So I just want you to be aware of that. So we can pop it in now, though, Janice, if you'd like. I don't have an issue with that. Do you want to pop it in now? Free gift?
Yes, if you can do that.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So what I will be doing is loading up, and they'll see it. They should see it on their the right hand of their screen. They'll see the pop-up, and they can get access to your book, Dealing with Difficult People. So do you want to tell them about that a little bit?
Okay, so what I've got, you know, I mean, essentially when we're learning to deal with difficult people, there's 5 skill sets that we've already got because we learn about them. But when you're learning to deal with difficult people, it's taking them to a positive frame and living with them positively rather than negatively. So in my books that I've got, which is Difficult People in Tricky Situations, I talk about the personalities, because we know that people are different, and we think, oh, my mother drives me up the wall, or my father drives me up the wall, or my partner drives me up the wall, and so, or my kids drive me up the wall. And why does that one they want to sprawl on the floor in front of television and do their homework? And why does one want to go to the bedroom and sit at a desk? And why is my partner so particular about money? And why, you know, and I mean all these sorts of things. And all of that is about personalities, which I mentioned those 4 birds before. And it's really important. In the book I have some information about that. Because once you understand who you are, the more you understand about you, you can understand about the other people, and they're not really difficult. They're just a different personality group, and that's a huge, like a light bulb goes on. And so that's really interesting. That's in the book. The other thing that I've got in there, and I'll just talk a little bit more about that, is about our different relationships. And so, you know, we've got 3 different, this is a process called transactional analysis, and there's 3 different relationship scenarios or styles, roles. The first one is, and we know them, it's an adult, it's a child, and a parent. And we think that those parent, adult, child, that's how people should be in those roles. And you know, like, I mean, a child is a little kid playing, an adult is sensible and can communicate and negotiate, and a parent is kind of teaching us, and that's what we sort of think about those. But what happens is that in our relationships, those roles get muddled up and jingled up, and our partner starts treating us like they're our parent, or our partner starts being a kid, and we're thinking, hold on, you're 35 years old, you're not supposed to be acting like a kid, you're supposed to be an adult. And so within our relationships, we get these all muddled up, and we have the dysfunctional ones, which is where I was 25 years ago, is a lose-lose type relationship. And then we start to learn, and we move through, and we end up creating a win-win relationship. So we go through these stages, and you know, that's so important that we understand where we are and where we want to be, and learn to be there. Learn to be there.
Oh.
So those are the two of them. Do you want me to carry on, Melissa, with the other ones? I can.
You can. I was going to ask you another question, but I'm more than willing to listen.
And I'm a talker.
Do you have something to add to that?
Beg your pardon?
Did you have something to add to that?
Well, I can continue on, but let you ask me my question, your question.
So actually, I was just wondering, will your methods or the advice that you're giving us work in any area or for anyone at all?
Absolutely, anyone, any area. I've taught this to students, sort of, you know, from about high school students upwards. I've taught it to parents. I've taught it to people in the business market. I teach it the corporate market. Everybody, this same information is exactly the same, and it depends on where you are, and that's the most important thing, is that you learn or discover where you are, because if you're having a difficult relationship or with a bully, it means that there's something that you've got to learn, and to get to a better place, you've got to learn the skill set. You know, it happens in the top corporations. We have people that are supposed to be adults acting like parents or acting like children, and they're supposed to be running a business. So across the board, Melissa, across the board.
That sounds great. That's good, because we need advice for a lot of different people. So that's why I was asking. And so some of the people that you've helped, can you tell me about some of the experiences they've had and what they've learned and how they've taken your advice and what they've done with that?
Okay, well, I'm just thinking of one lady, and so she actually heard me. I was doing an interview with Natalie Ledwell on Mind Movies, and of course it was broadcast in the US, and this lady was here in New Zealand, in Auckland as well, and she heard the interview and immediately contacted me, because what happened was that she realized that her father was a bully. This lady is now married with 2 children. Her father was a bully. He was in a well-respected profession, and he was also an alcoholic. And so during the years of her growing up as a teenager, when they split up, the marriage split up when she was about 10, and for about the next 10 years she was living with her father, going and visiting her mother, and he was bullying her all the time, and so her self-esteem was absolutely rock bottom. She didn't understand what had happened and why it happened and how she could move forward. And so, I mean, I worked with her on one-on-one coaching for 6 months, and she came out of it, absolutely turned her life around, because she could see and understand then why the mother had left, how she got pulled into it because she was wanting to be the caregiver, the peacemaker between mum and dad. And so she carried on that role into her relationship with her husband. And so once she learned all these skills, she could she changed. And fabulous.
That's nice. I'm sure there are a lot of experiences that people have had that you've helped them with. I appreciate that. So what's one secret that you would give everybody about difficult people, and what would that be? What would be a secret that you would give them, or something special to help them understand how to deal with difficult people?
Improve your self-esteem. Because as you value yourself and realize that you are really, really important in your own life, and that you are unhappy and you do not need to be unhappy, that you can start to learn how to change yourself and your life by creating new boundaries, by using the right words, by having the confidence. So confidence is absolutely, totally crucial. And when I shared about when I discovered at a parenting course that I had low self-esteem, and when I did an exercise, I put myself at -20. I was bordering on suicidal at times, but then I kept thinking, I've got 2 young children, I've got to look after them. So they were in some ways my savior, because they were more important than me. And so I had to learn to be a good parent, and I had to learn to believe in myself, and that's what all this journey is about. Build your self-esteem, learn to love yourself, and value your life as well.
Does that go with bullies too? Would you give the same advice or something different? Would there be a different secret for bullies than for difficult people?
Well, if you are a victim of bully, it's the same advice, because you have got low self-esteem, and you need to learn how to empower yourself and embrace yourself, and you learn new skills. Now, if you are the bully, if you are doing the bully, or if you are the difficult person, generally you also have low self-esteem, and you don't feel good enough in your life, and you don't feel, and it could be that you've had it all your life because that's how you were brought up, but now you're an adult and you realize that you don't feel okay and you are being a bully. It's up to you to learn the new skills, because both parties, when there's difficult people and bullies, both of them have got low self-esteem, both of them can't communicate effectively, both of them have negative attitudes, and so we've got to learn to move upwards. And if only one wants to move upwards, like in my case, one moves upwards and one stays down here. And that's our life lesson, because we've got to look after ourselves.
And then what happens when they stay down there? Is that when you have to kind of leave the relationship?
If that's your choice, yes. And most certainly for me. I mean, look, it's now 25 years, and I'm still being blamed for things that happened 25 years ago from my ex-partner. So we go into relationships with people at our similar level of thinking, and because we all want to be loved. I mean, that's a human nature. And so we meet somebody and we have a relationship with them, and then we decide it's not working. So if I go and we think, oh, well, if I find someone else, it's going to get better. But unless we learn how to have a better relationship, we're going to get another one at the same level of dysfunction. So, you know, it's about, if you're not happy, learn the skills, and if it fades away, if it's family, you just don't see them so often, set new boundaries, and create a new life for yourself. If it's friends, as you change, you will meet new friends in your life, because that's what life's about.
I like that. I agree with you. So what are the most common problems you see with difficult people and bullies, or experience with them?
Well, usually the difficult people or the bully think they are better than their victim or their other person. They think that, you know, I've got every right to do this, and, you know, I'm important. And I'll share a story with you here, because, I mean, it's, you know, this was my ex-husband. He said to me, when we went for counselling and I tried to fix it, he said, if you do everything I tell you to do, our marriage will be fine. And I'm thinking, oh, no, mate, that's not going to work. So he liked me to be a doormat, and I was not being a doormat.
Yeah, that's and that's typical bullies, right? They know how to take advantage and manipulate. Do you find that at times that sometimes bullies are not so aggressive? They're actually a sly manipulator, and how do you deal with somebody who's more of a sly manipulator and it's not so overt? Like sometimes people think a bully is really aggressive and you can spot them a mile away, but that sly manipulative bully, how do you deal with someone like that?
Well, exactly as you said, because there is physical bullying, you know, the physical, there's mental, which is, you know, really, that's the thing, and there's spiritual, so, you know, they're saying, you know, you're no good and that sort of thing, so they're really sort of pulling your soul to bits. So there's three different types, and for all of it, if it's happening to you, it's really being able to start to change the way that you react to them, the way that you think about them, and the way that you think about yourself, because they are really, really clever with their words. And I remember at times when people have said things and it would be twisted around, and I'd think, no, I didn't say that. So, so it's really important that a few words that you can use, and if anyone's got a pen and paper, I suggest you write down this phrase. And the words are, I've changed my thinking. I've changed my thinking. Now, nobody can tell you what to do all the time, and it's up to you to how you're going to reply to somebody. But if you say, I've changed my thinking, that now no longer works for me, you've actually set yourself up a new boundary, and you've done it with words. The other two words that are really important, which I've kind of got in my little book as well, is to use an I statement. I am, I think, I feel, and that's empowering you. And that's really, really hard, especially for the Dove personality, the caregivers, and also that word that I said before, which is no. No, I can't do that now. I'll do it afterwards. I'll do it next week, or I've changed my thinking. I don't ever want to do it again.
You know, Janice, I find no is hard for certain people. It's very, very, very difficult. I just was with someone this weekend, and she's so lovely, and she told me she's so busy, she stays up till 2 o'clock in the morning doing work. And I said to her, well, you don't have to be on every committee and in charge of everything. And she said, well, I do, because I can't say no. And she really, it wasn't that she was saying, I can't say no. It was like, I have to do this. It was a drive within her to do it. So how does somebody deal with that if they have that many problems saying no?
Well, you know, sometimes when we look at our belief systems from when we were brought up, is that we were kind of taught to look after everyone else. And there's that old saying, be seen and not heard. And so we help everyone else at our own expense. And so if you asked her what her self-esteem level was like, and if she came out that it would be quite low, it's because it makes her feel important to look after people and to do all these things. It gives her a purpose, and that's all very fine. There's nothing wrong with having a purpose, but when your own health is being you know, you're not looking after yourself, and you know your health is deteriorating, you're stressed out, then it's about how do you find the happy medium, because we like to help people, but we've got to find a happy medium that we looked after ourselves. So I'd suggest looking at belief systems, why she has to do it, and then sort of, you know, it's okay to say no, because I mean that's how we set our boundaries.
Yeah, I find people, they don't realize that it is okay to say no. They're like, oh, I can say no, and people won't hate me for it. So, you know, that being said, a lot of people might think that this is really kind of too good to be true, and could they really say no? Could they really deal with the bullies? So what's the catch here?
The catch here is every time you say no to somebody else, the most wonderful thing, which is what your life is about, is that you are saying yes to you. You know, you were born, we're all born to become our best. And everything in our life is our learning curves. You know, our life is our big school. We go to school to learn to read and write and to get qualifications so that we can get a job, so that we can be happy and find love and romance. And that's how life is supposed to be. But all the rest of things that happen in our life are our learning curves. And for us to you know, you see people and they've got their dream life, they've got their dream partner, they've got their dream house, their dream car. They've all gone on the journey to be able to say yes to themselves. And that's what you're here to do. You know, I mean, that's what life's about for us, each of us.
I like that. Yeah. So what sorts of things can people do to avoid the difficult people or the bullies?
First of all, every time you don't feel happy in a relationship, that's your inner soul, your intuition, you know, that's whatever you want to call it, giving you an indication. That's your GPS saying, I don't feel okay here. And so then it's about you deciding what you can do to change the situation. And it's not going to happen overnight, but as you learn how to implement some new skills, because the other ones, we've talked about self-esteem, we've talked about communication, the other one is our attitude. You know, if we think, well, we don't feel happy here, but we've got to stay here because, you know, I'm married or I've got children or whatever, you know, we've either got to work out how to make that work better or what we can do to turn our life around for ourselves. And so every time we're not happy, find out what you can do to be happy, but learn the skills. Don't just leave one relationship and go into another one.
Right. Don't just leave one with all your baggage. Leave some of your baggage behind. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. And learn so that the next one you've kind of sorted out that baggage. Yeah.
Well, we do learn from our mistakes, hopefully. And that's
Yes.
the key. We have to look at our lives and be really honest with ourselves, don't we? And that's where a lot of people have problems, especially the people who tend to be bullied. They tend to not want to look at themselves because they're so used to that role. They don't know how to look at themselves as an empowered person. And they don't see themselves as an empowered person. They see themselves more as the victim. Even if they don't use that word, they see themselves as that. So what would you suggest somebody to help? I know you said self-esteem before, but the empowerment part of it, what would you suggest for that?
Well, I mean, I probably can't suggest anything extra except by using the words, by honouring yourself, by realising that you're entitled to your own dreams and your own goals, and actually valuing who you are, because out of, you know, I mean, I never thought that I would ever be teaching about bullying because I was bullied as a teenager. But when you mentioned at the beginning, Melissa, that I've had messages from the other side, I've had them for 30 years, and it's like, oh my God, I'm going nuts. I don't know what it's all about. So as I've gone on the journey to learn about those messages that were being given to me, it's a journey that you know, has led me to be my best, because the movie that I'm going to make is called The Success Attitude. The book I've written is The Success Attitude. It's about I had to learn how to step up all the time, and there's for all of us, that's what we've got to do. We've got to step up. And Marianne Williamson wrote a poem that Nelson Mandela made famous, and the words in it that really turned my life around, because I got given a big message in 2000, and it was to start a self-esteem day. And I thought, oh God, I can't do that. I'm not good enough. Who do I think I am? And it took me 4 years to be able to start that. And it was the words from Marianne and Nelson Mandela, and it was, "Your playing small does not serve the world." And for all of us, our playing small does not serve the world, and it also does not serve us. So it's a journey.
I like that. That was beautiful, absolutely beautiful, because one of the things you said that really, other than the last part about serving the world, I've heard that. I love that. And just saying that again makes me feel really good and powerful. That's a very empowering statement. You know, if you're playing small, you're not serving the world. And most of those caregivers, that's part of what they want to do, is serve the world. That even if they're serving the family and serving the children or serving, you know, the boss, they're still in that service place as the caregiver. But I liked also what you said about it's okay to value who you are and actually follow your dreams. And that's really where I feel like a lot of those people have issues. They don't know that they can follow their dreams. They're so busy making sure everybody else's dreams are being fulfilled, they forget about their own. And that's very frustrating for people. Yeah.
Absolutely. And because, you know, sometimes we go back to what's happened, the way we were brought up or whatever, and that's fine when we were young. But once we're out earning our own keep, living our own lives, then our dreams are to be followed. And a quick way to find out is you go to a travel magazine or just a magazine and you go through and you sort of think, oh, I'd like those pair of shoes, or I'd like that, or I'd like that job, or I'd like that dress. Well, to get those things, you have to have the money to do that, and have the money, you've got to find a job. You know, I mean, it's a stepping up process all the time, and that's life. Exciting, fun.
It is exciting.
Challenging.
It is exciting. And challenging. So where can people find out more about the program itself, and how can they contact you?
Okay, so what I've got a free webinar coming up in a few weeks' time. So if people would like to send me, or they can, two things they can do: send me the email me. My email is janice@attitudespecialist.com. So Janice, JANICE, @attitudespecialist.com. If people email me, I can send out those handouts, or they can go to the website, which we've got on there, I think, Difficult People Help, and there's another ebook they can download. And I'll send them some information about the free webinar that's coming up in a few weeks' time, and they can learn some more.
Oh, good. Okay. I put your email address in the chat box, so it should come up for people.
Fabulous. Yes, lovely.
Good. All right. So is there anything else you want to add, or anything else that you want to talk about before we go?
I'd just like to leave it that if anyone is having a difficult people and relationship or being bullied, this is really in your life because you've got to learn. And if you don't learn how to deal with them now, which is learning all those things that I talked about, it's going to keep on coming back. And sure, it's tricky. I know it's tricky. I've been there. But on the other side, it's fabulous. So I would really urge people to learn these skills, self-esteem, communication, all these things that I've mentioned, and become their best, because that's what makes life so exciting.
Well, thank you. Okay, perfect. I like the way you ended that. So thank you so much, Janice, for being here and serving us in such a special way and helping so many people with your voice and with your message about, you don't have to live your life being bullied. You can actually do certain little tools to just help you feel more empowered. And that's really a beautiful message and a beautiful way to express and help others. And I really appreciate your time, and I want to thank you. So I'm really blessings to you.
Lovely. Thank you, honey. That's lovely.
Thank you. All right. And now I'm just going to mention that I'm Melissa Fike, and you can find me at Melissa Fike, FEICK.com. That's FEICK. And I am a personal development coach, and I also help people with personal development through spiritual expansion, through expanding who they are on a larger level, so that they don't have to, like you said, live small, right, Janice? So
Absolutely.
I also have this relationship series, and also some YouTube videos that you might be interested in if you run by, about intuition, about being in the flow of life, about manifesting good things in your life. So everybody have a beautiful day, and thank you so much.